Good day and welcome to a new video. Hey yo, and I'm joined here by the Artsyaxolotl.
Hi.
And
What's
today
going on?
I am doing a painting from, I'm going from a tonal study all the way to the final color versions. You can check out Artsyaxolotl at artsyaxolotl.tumblr.com, and I think she got Twitter and some other things. But yeah, if you can just tell me
I
about
have.
yourself.
I've got some other things listed, but to be honest, I mostly just use Tumblr. I'm mostly just a Tumblr loser. That's me.
Yeah. So
Uh, yeah.
yeah, tell me a bit about yourself, a bit more.
I I went to an art school in Pennsylvania, uh, to study illustration. So that's how I ended up doing art. And then I moved out to Missouri for a job, so now I'm here, and I'm working for a toy company. And I'm pretty much a big giant nerd. I like video games a lot.
Yeah, video games are cool.
So, yeah, I'm not good at
Interesting.
talking about myself.
Yeah, you design toys. Do you design those
Yeah,
in like 3D or you have to draw ideas for
two.
them? 2D.
Yeah, I do most of the 2D concepting. So it's my it's a really small company. It's like 15 people.
Hmm.
So we work really closely with the owner, and so the owner will usually come out of his office and be like, "This toy is doing really well. We should make a toy that's like this." And then we design a toy that's like that without copying it.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of the illustrations. Like if he wants a line of animal figures, I have to design all the characters, and then he picks the ones he likes. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's some of our products have LCD screens on them, so I do a lot of storyboarding too, for any of the animation that goes in the toy.
Awesome.
But I think we're moving away from animation a little bit because it just takes
Mhm.
too long. My boss needs turnaround in like 3 months, and there's no way that we can get an entire animation project done in 3 months.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
Got to
that's the
speed through it
kind of
all.
stuff I do generally.
Yeah, well, everyone welcome to ask questions along the way. Um, and shout out to anyone that's watching as well. Um, yeah.
Yeah. So and you seem to do a lot of like YouTube and art type stuff. Do you do anything outside of that?
Outside, I've got like, day jobs. Traffic control and also
Oh,
do,
cool.
yeah, and, play games and sometimes read magazines and things. Um, and, go out, see movies and
Very
all
cool.
sorts, as you do.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah,
And you seem to be focusing on the art thing, so that's cool.
most of the time you'll
You got a
find
lot of
me
cool.
drawing or creating something. Lately I've been doing these courses on schoolism.com, which is amazing. I really do love that kind of stuff. You get to learn from, the best of the best artists out there.
Yeah.
Um,
Sounds like it.
yeah,
What's the website called? I never heard of it.
schoolism.com.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so when did you first make your alias name?
I think it was 2 years ago, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
No, you know what? It was a year ago. It was right out of college.
Mhm.
I had a really hard time leaving college because it was kind of like, I don't know, like going to college was the first time I ever really felt confident in myself because I had a big group of, I had a close group of friends, which I didn't really have too much of in high school. And so I felt very comfortable at college. So when college was over, I had a really hard time going home and going back to kind of like regular family life. And so I created the alias to kind of, I don't know, give myself a new identity, something new to work with when I was online. And I'd always wanted to have a character name. Like the kind of character names I liked from other people on like DeviantArt or Tumblr or anything. I liked kind of the quirky names. Like there was one person I used to follow on DeviantArt called Dapper Owl, and I thought that name was funny and cute.
Yeah.
So I always wanted a name like that was like, adjective noun, and so I like axolotls a lot, so Artsyaxolotl it is.
Awesome.
So probably a year ago was kind of like a rebranding, but also kind of a finding myself in the creative world a little bit. I didn't like the idea of using my name for my illustration, which they pushed really hard at my college. They really wanted you to use your own name.
Yeah.
And I just was never comfortable using Katie Osika Illustrations as my tagline. I just never liked it.
I mean, it's one of those things that, it can work for some people and it can't work for some people. I suppose some people do it because, their name might be like really long and it might be in another, like, quite Frenchy. So not everyone can pronounce it. Like the Black Frog. He's an amazing concept artist. And, his name's really hard to pronounce. I can't even remember it, but I remember his name as being
it was the Black Frog.
the Black Frog,
And it's easy, yeah.
I mean, I started with an alias. So I like King Cheetahs.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I like King Cheetah, so I decided to, have myself as King Cheat,
Yeah.
But eventually I changed against that because I just wanted to, have me as the first person doing it. It's just what I got pushed into doing, and I feel that it did kind of help. And I don't think there's much difference in the naming. It's not like it makes me more famous to be, this alias. Versus
absolutely.
your name. It's just
I think it's all
hard.
dependent.
Yeah, it's
I think it's really dependent on like what kind of style and just what fits your personality, I think. Some people really own their name and I like my name. It's not that I don't like it. It just for me personally, I liked having the alias, but it definitely works for some people.
Yeah. Definitely.
There's a couple people in my graduating class I probably never would have I can't imagine them using an alias, like their name was so identifiable. I could picture them using that name and getting famous off their name. So, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So, yeah, when did you first pursue doing art as more than a hobby?
Early on in high school. I'll let you in on a fun fact. I am not good at much else, so
Yeah.
this is about all I got. I better hope I never lose my hands, because I'm done. So I don't know, I always enjoyed art. I was always really good at it. It was something that came naturally to me, and it was just always something I wanted to do. So right away in high school, I took as many art classes as I could. I got all my gross, gym and, whatever other classes I didn't want to take out of the way, so that senior year it was just like 90% art classes, and I just did my best. So yeah, really, really early on, I knew that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, yeah, I was... Yeah, okay.
I was gonna ask, how about you?
Yeah. I'll just hold up, I don't know, I really struggled to find what I wanted to do during high school, but by my about second or third year, I just got really taken by wanting to keep drawing and creating things, designing things, and all the above. So, being me, I decided to pursue this, and
Absolutely.
yeah, I've done 5 years of courses. So I did 2 years at the local Palmerston School of Design we have here, and then I transferred for the next 3 years doing a bachelor's in graphic design, computer graphic design, in Wanganui. here in New Zealand, it's a long place away where you're from.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
But
like
yeah,
2 in the afternoon for you, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. It's good afternoon, you know.
I just
Um,
I just finished dinner.
yeah, it's fun with time zones on doing these streams and things. Um,
Oh yeah.
but yeah, as soon as I started course, I knew I wanted to, take it much further. Um, I was designing things a lot of the time, and some of the projects, I wasn't too happy with doing. They were, design a logo or something quite simple. But in
Hmm.
the end, some of those skills have taught me a lot um, into pursuing illustration. Um, yeah.
That was always something that fascinated me about looking back at college was that there were so many times in college I just didn't want to do the project. It was just like, why am I doing this? And looking back at it now, I wish I would have taken some of those projects a little more seriously because I really did learn a lot from the things I didn't want to do. A lot of the anatomy, a lot of the anatomy classes, we did some really weird in-depth stuff where like we were actually drawing like the individual bones of the skeleton. Like the homework one week was just to draw the rib cage. That was all that, or like just to draw the spine and nothing else. All you had to do
Mm.
was draw the spine. And at first it was like, why are we doing this? This is so specific. But now I understand the skeleton a lot better. I can't name a single bone in the body, but I know how to. I know where they go, and I know that okay, the funny triangle shaped one down on your hips is the bottom of your spine. I don't know what it's called, but that's what that is. It looks like a shovel. It's shaped
Yeah,
like a shovel.
the coccyx.
I have a general idea of how things clip together, I guess,
Yeah,
but I don't know the names of any of them.
yeah. I think you need to understand them in the way that you can draw them, but I don't know if it's too important to actually know each individual scientific name for every bone, and that I feel that's
Yeah.
only to like impress your friends, like, oh, look at this, I know what this is called. um like
Right.
I was
Yeah.
saying the other day, the top part of like collarbone up there, there's a name for it where it's called like the jugular vertebrae or something. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a funny name.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, hmm.
I mean, I've had to look it up a couple times. I was helping somebody on one of their streams. They were struggling with the chest shape a little bit, and I sat there talking to the person for a little while, and they just could not figure out why the chest didn't look right. So I took a screenshot of their stream and did a red line and tried to figure out what it was that was bugging us about it. And then I had to actually use scientific names for things like, oh, it's this muscle, and it's because you have it drawn this way when it should be drawn like the opposite direction, and then it would be fine. And then we figured it out. But that's like a few times I actually have to use the scientific name for anatomy.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. When you're explaining something.
Hmm.
Yeah. So for this piece,
Sometimes people know what you're talking about.
yeah, for this piece, I was trying to get it to the final stage. Um, and it was tough trying to challenge the lighting because it was made up lighting. It wasn't exactly, there wasn't a photo showing where the lighting actually is coming from. Um,
Hmm.
it was all imaginary creatures and things that based off the animals and references that you see, but there isn't
Hmm.
any clear direction. So there was a bit of iffy of how do I fix this up? How do I keep continuing it? How do I know when the tonal is actually finished? And yeah, I do find that a hard thing is knowing when your artwork's at a finished state, because sometimes you can be like, oh, it's looking really cool at the moment, I think it's finished. So
Yeah.
when do you know that a piece is finished?
I struggled with that for a long time. I always felt like I could always do more. Because of the way I work, I break up my layers in a really specific way so that my art stays consistent.
Mm-hmm.
So like I always have the line art layer. I always have a base layer that I then clip things to in
Mm.
Photoshop, like color shading, all that. I have a really specific way I lay out my panels. So once I'm totally done with the lines and I've gone through all the color and I'm looking at it going, I don't really know if I'm done with it yet. My final step is always to put textures on. So I have two textures, two Photoshop textures that I put over top of everything on an overlay layer, and that kind of helps me see it as a finished product, because now it's got that finished kind of color and texture over it, and it I don't know, I kind of like built in my own final step. Sometimes
Mm.
I still go back and look at that stuff and go, I wish I would have done this or that with it, but I guess that's kind of how I handle it. Um, I feel like if I did a painterly style, like the style you do, I would just paint it forever.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't understand. I have a hard time with the hard and soft edges thing, so I would probably struggle with it a little bit.
Hmm.
I'm like watching this, and I'm just like mesmerized by all your textures. I'm just watching it paint. It's little
Yeah.
hard shadows and stuff.
Yeah. I think I'd go into it too much. Sometimes I'm sitting there playing around trying to see if it works or not, and like there's probably a few hours or something where it's me just playing around that you don't actually see recorded. Um,
Hmm.
and whether I keep it in there or not is, um, the decision. But yeah,
Right.
and I had
I
to.
tend to do a lot of things very fast and loose too to keep myself from focusing in on one thing for too long. So, like
Mm,
when I'm shading, instead of going in and shading the whole character's face and then doing the whole character's torso and then doing the character's weapon or whatever, I'll just take one big giant like 300 pixel brush and just there's a shadow on the right side of their body, and
mm,
that shadow kind of hits the right side of this arm, and I just do like one big like streak of shadow and then go in with the eraser and clean it up, and that keeps me from focusing on one thing for too long.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. It's a good technique there. I felt I did most of that though in for this piece in particular. I did most of that at the because I did a three-tonal study of it. So yeah, I
Hmm.
do most of that in that three-tonal study stage. Um,
Yeah.
and even then,
Well, and like you said, you have a more kind of fantastical lighting going on here. It's not like coming from one specific direction. So.
well, yeah, it's I don't know if it's true because there's no kind of unless you were to maybe make this out of paper mache or something and take a photo, there's no telling if it's fully true. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, it's quite hard sometimes. But you just gotta think, where your light source is coming from, and yeah, I did end up just going and getting this critiqued, and eventually you'll see the final kind of light direction and how that turns out. Um,
Yeah.
how you do you
I'm
get
excited. I'm
your
liking this still.
do you get your work critiqued?
Hmm?
Do you get your
Sorry.
work critiqued often?
Not as much anymore. Not because I don't want to, just because I don't tend to, uh, like take the time to go out and do it. I guess I'm
Mm,
pretty happy
mm,
with my art the way it is, and I know I could always get better, but sometimes it's nice to just post something and be done with it. But I certainly always like critique. If somebody comes by and wants to say something, I'm 100% open for it. But I don't seek out critique as much as I used
mm.
to.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Um, but again, it's more for a lack of sources. I just don't. Well, like when I was in college, there was always a network of people around me. I had two of my best friends lived across the hall from my roommate and I. So if I ever needed a critique on something, I could just take it to them and be like, "Hey, what do you think?"
Mm,
Um, but I don't have that close network anymore. So uh, I mean, having a Discord channel helps too, though, because if I want critique on anything or if I need help with a particular idea, I can just post it on the Discord now, and I've got a bunch of people to help me. But I think sometime between college and now, I stopped seeking out critique.
Yeah, yeah.
But it sounds like you go and get critiques
Well,
pretty often.
not often. It's only when I'm really stuck sometimes, or if I
mean,
just
that's a great time to go out and seek a critique.
just if I'm stuck on something, or if I'm like at a piece, I think it's finished, but I just don't know what's missing. Sometimes I just need another eye to look at it and be like, well, have you thought about this, that, and then take what they've said and kind of think about it, and then apply it, see if it works, and see what to fix up and things.
Yeah.
And I feel,
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone at some point needs a third eye.
Yeah.
It's good to have, that network of friends. I definitely don't have as much network now. One place I went was the Schoolism. They have a Facebook page, so I just posted there for people to see and critique me on it, which is really awesome.
Yeah.
Most of them
That was going to be a question I was going to ask you, is where do you get your critiques from? So the Schoolism Facebook page, then?
There, or if my course buddies, I might post them, send them.
Yeah.
But yeah.
There you go.
And also, meeting artists through this, me doing YouTube shows and stuff, so sometimes I may be like, oh, would you mind giving me a critique? If I'm lucky, I might do that.
Yeah. I always try to ask people before I just give a critique if they're okay with it, because sometimes I'll be, looking at other people's... I like meeting other people on Twitch Creative, so if I'm watching somebody stream and they seem to be struggling with something, I'll ask them if they mind a red line or just a verbal, critique of my thoughts, and most of the time people are pretty open to it, which is really, really nice that people are open to learning.
Yeah.
That happens sometimes in college, where you got people who just didn't want to take a critique and they just didn't care. I think that's kind of sad, because you're kind of restricting your own artwork. If you're not willing to take a critique, then you'll get better a lot slower.
Yeah, you gotta be able to take one. It took me, a little bit of time to understand that.
Yeah.
Because the first year...
I did too.
Yeah. The first year in course, it was really like trying to detach myself from being, wanting to love my work, and then people coming in and being like, nah, that's pretty bad, you need to change this and that, and you're like, nah, I want to do my own thing. So yeah.
Right. I always hate when people give critiques like that. Like, this is bad, do this instead.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Whenever I like giving people critiques, because I like getting critiques, so I feel good when I can help somebody, realize something about their art through a critique, but I try hard not to use negative language. Because it turns people off to taking critiques so much if you tell them that, like, this is bad and it would be better if you did this. It's all about the phrasing, I think, too.
Yeah. Do you have any stories about your work getting critiqued that you'd like to share, or
About what? I'm sorry?
about your work getting critiqued? Any stories?
Ooh, critiques about me getting critiqued. I have a lot more stories about people taking critique.
Yeah.
Because we had quite a few gems in my graduating class who just could not take a critique. Or people who were, like, really excited about getting critiques, so, like, you would constantly, like, the only conversations you'd ever have with them was, oh my gosh, can you critique my thing?
Yeah.
Okay, give it to me, let me look at it. Like, you either get people who, like, did not care about critique at all, or people who are, like, way too into getting critiques. We always did, like, class critiques, so, So like if we were working on a project, say in our in a character design class, once the project was over, we would all print our art and post it around, like we, tape it to the walls around the room, and then we would go around the room and do one piece at a time, and
Yeah.
spend like 5 or 10 minutes on everybody's artwork and just talk about it and things we liked, things we didn't like, things we thought could be better, things that whatever. And so that was sort of an interesting way to do it because it kind of forced you to talk about other people's stuff and to listen to other people just talk about your thing. And it kind of taught us the value of just sitting there and being quiet and waiting for everyone to finish before you tried to defend your art. That helped me learn how to take critiques a little bit too, because they wouldn't let you talk while everyone else was talking, and then once everybody had sort of given their comments, the teacher would turn to you and say, okay, do you want to say anything in response to any of that? And you could defend stuff if you wanted to, or if somebody just really didn't get the point, that was another reason to do it. But a lot of the times people were really fair about it.
Yeah.
I had a specific thought to go along with that. I don't remember what it was. It left me.
Yeah.
But those were always interesting, the kind of group critiques. Oh, I remember what it was. Always the ones that always cracked me up were the non-illustrative classes that we had to take. So like we had classes that were like, character design or color theory or things like that. But then we also had like just painting class. You came to class with a canvas and oil paints, and there was a nude model, and you had to paint the nude model for an hour.
Yeah.
Or not an hour, for however long the class was. I think my classes were like all day. So you would just spend all day just painting the model. And those classes always cracked me up because it was just a figure study class. So you would spend a lot of time painting or drawing in whatever the media of the day was. You would draw like glass jugs and vases or the model, and then you would do these critiques where you would hang all the stuff on the board and like talk about it like it was this conceptual piece of artwork. And I love how you played the light off of this, and the light, and how you have the light that bounces off this, and your composition really tells this story. And all of us were just sitting there like, I painted a glass face.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
I now gained an understanding of how light works with glass. It's not conceptual. It's just glass.
Yeah.
Those were always my favorite.
Sounds fun.
I
Yeah.
don't know if you ever experienced that, but those were always fun. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I had group critiques and things like that. I didn't have, those kind of studies, and in one of my courses we had to sit around a table and draw something like, objects and things. So yeah, it was interesting doing. We didn't really do critiques.
Those were always
on
the
those,
classes.
Yeah.
The aforementioned classes where I just, never, like, I didn't like them when I had them, and I wish I would have taken them more seriously. Those were those kind of classes. I wish I would have taken
Okay.
I wish I would have taken the life painting classes more seriously, because I hated paint. I don't like traditional media. I'm so bad with it. Digital media is me.
Interesting. Yeah. And have you always been that way?
Yeah, I used to do a lot of pencil and marker when I was in high school, just because it was easy to carry markers around in my backpack. I never really liked colored pencil. I could never blend it very well. I know people have a great mastery of colored pencil, but I just I never got the hang of it. So I used marker for a long time, like Copics and Prismas and stuff, but again, I never really developed any sort of mastery over the media, so it always controlled me instead.
Yeah. I'm
glad I found digital, because easy for me.
I love my traditional, surprisingly. Yeah, it's only a couple of years ago when I just delved right into digital. But now I try and 50-50 it.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? My computer's freaking out on my end.
That's all good. I'm basically saying that, I'm in traditional, then color pencil for like 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And yeah. But now I do mostly digital. I'm trying to 50-50 it, be like 50% color pencil and 50% digital, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a challenge.
I always wanted to be somebody who could switch back and forth, but I'm just not good at traditional. I'm actually a lot better with pen now, though.
Hmm.
I sort of enjoy drawing in pen. I don't know
Yeah.
why.
Hmm. Would you be doing basically just the sketches in pen, or the final pieces?
Depends on what it is. Over Christmas, actually, a friend of my mom's came over and was showing us this thing. I don't know how widespread it is yet. I think it's just something from my area, but it was this thing called Zentangle,
Hmm.
and you basically get a little like 3x3 sheet of like thick art paper, and the little kit you can buy at like AC Moore or wherever it was comes with like a nice like felt tip pen marker thing and the little card, and you just kind of doodle on it. But the whole like reason it's like a separate thing from just doodling was that like there's certain patterns you do. So like every like type of like if you're just doing like a whole bunch of swirls and you just do like a couple little curls, that's like a thing. Or if you're drawing like just like hatch marks, that's called something. Um, and there's a whole book of like specific designs, and they show you step by step how to do that particular doodle. And when we were first doing it, I was kind of like, it's kind of fun to do with like somebody to talk you through it, but I don't know if I'd really do this on my own time. And it's supposed to be for like relaxing and meditation, but I don't know if that would really be for me. And it's sort of fun now that I know the doodles to just like if I'm like sitting in a boring meeting, I'll just draw like a little square in my notebook and just start doodling in it, you know. But I do it in pen. I don't know, something about pen is nice and smooth. I don't do too much sketching in pen though.
Okay.
Like if I'm doing like a character and if I'm sitting at like the airport or something and can't have my laptop out, then I'll sketch in pencil. I do most of my sketching on the computer now too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I like my undo button.
Yeah, I find it interesting sometimes. I sketch on the tablet and I just go from there. But I started off with having to draw it traditionally, either scan it or take a photo, bring it into Photoshop, and then go from there. And
yeah, I used to do that also.
Yeah, I do that sometimes. It depends on what I feel like doing. But less of that these days.
Right. Yeah.
Because I have a fully feel of how to draw on a tablet now, so it's like can draw on screen, so don't need that many changes in the way I work from digital to traditional.
What tablet do you work with?
So I've got a Cintiq 13 HD.
That's a good tablet.
yeah, it's pretty good. It's really good. I've had it for the last 2 or 3 years now. It must have been about 2 years. Yeah. But yeah, it's been pretty cool. I first worked on a big one. I think it might have been a 24, but it was an older version. I don't know if you can get them anymore. Don't think you can get them anymore. Because my old course had them. And yeah.
I have a 20, it's either a 22 or a 24. It's the same one I have at work. It's still available, so I don't know if it's a different, like a newer version of the one you're talking about, but they got me one to have at my desk at work, and I really liked it, so I went on eBay and I bought one for myself for at home too.
Awesome. Yeah. So have you had any memorable challenges in your artistic journey?
Oh boy.
Yeah, tough question.
All the things. Yeah, all the things.
Yeah.
Learning to draw people was definitely a big hurdle. I was one of those people who always liked drawing animals more than I like drawing people, and still like drawing animals more than I like drawing people. I drew a lot of dragons when I was younger. learning to draw people was a big challenge. Going through the process of figuring out my style was maybe the thing that I went through, trying to kind of define myself as an individual, because there were a lot of artists I look up to and a lot of people that I was like, I want to draw like that, or I want to draw like that, or I want to
Mm.
draw like this person, but I want to color like this other person, and kind of remembering to put myself aside from them was kind of a struggle for me. I went through a lot of different variations of the style I'm at now, doing entirely hard edge shadows with no blending, doing all blending, doing lots of fades, and now I'm kind of at something a little bit in between.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
I'll color in a shadow all solid, but then if it's on like a character's cheek and it needs to be soft, I'll make a layer mask and take the gradient tool and just soften it.
Mm.
But learning to go through that process was probably the biggest challenge I had as an artist.
Yeah.
I think that's every artist, though, I think has that a little bit.
Yeah. I feel the challenges never stop. Um,
That too. Yeah, that's a good
Yep.
point.
yeah, you've always got a challenge. I'm still getting over how to draw humans. Um, and it's just
Humans
one
are
of those
tough,
things.
man.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I mean, last few days I've been doing the human skeleton just because I've had some time and I've been like in between two projects at the moment, and I'm like, might as well just do some knowledge stuff. Um, so
Humans
no,
are hard because
yeah,
you never realize how much you actually look at humans until you have to try to draw them.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it never looks right because your brain kind of has this subconscious understanding of what a human looks like, and so if you don't get it just right, your brain's like it's wrong. But you're just doing your best.
yeah, yeah. I'm just finding breaking that down is much easier. So if I just focus on, let's say the other day I was focusing on, the the chest area. Come to me in a minute.
I think I caught the end of that stream because I saw
Um,
your. I think you had like the torso as like the skeleton torso, right?
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I caught the end of that.
yeah. And it's interesting because even if you're doing creature design, because creatures and animals, we all relate in some way. Our bone structure is a
Yeah.
little bit different, but standing animals, if there are many, there's mostly only monkeys. Um,
Actually, one of my favorite anatomical trivia things about animals is that like cats, dogs, uh, birds' wings, and I think it's whale fins, all have the exact same bone structure as the human arm. It's just that the bones are all different sizes.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
if you hold up your arm, and
Mhm.
like, cup your hand into like a point, that's basically a bird wing. I
Mm.
don't know. I think that's a cool piece of trivia. It helps you draw things like cats and dogs, and especially for me, it helps me draw birds because then I can think about if I'm drawing a bird with wings. The bird species I created doesn't have wings, but if I'm drawing wings, I can use my own arms to pose it, sort of.
Exactly. Yeah, so I feel that all anatomy feeds into each other. So it doesn't matter if you do learn a bit of animal anatomy and you want to be more of a human artist, it's still going to help. It's still going to help the other way as well. For instance, me with this character, drawing him pointing, it took a little bit of knowledge for me, giving him that anamorphic look to him and making him, look right. Like he's not just sitting or floating or something like that.
Right. He's kind of doing something now because he's got his hand up.
Mm,
I love his little paw. I don't know, his
Thanks.
fingers are great.
yeah, yeah, thanks. So yeah, pretty much we're running out of time here, so I'll probably just ask the last two questions.
Yeah, go for it.
So basically, what inspires you?
I draw a lot of my inspiration from just a lot of different sources. I spend a lot of time hanging out with other artists on Tumblr and DeviantArt, and one of my more recent stories of being inspired by things was that over Christmas break I didn't take my tablet's huge and it's kind of stuck to the desk now, so I didn't take my tablet with me over Christmas, and so I didn't really do any art for a whole week. And when I came back, my whole Discord had been talking about world building the whole break, and everybody was chatting and sharing ideas. And I came back and I was like, I want to world build so bad. And I think I canceled all games for the next week and just did art the entire week because that's all I wanted to do. Other people really inspire me, and their enthusiasm for art, makes me want to be enthusiastic about art. Specific like media that inspires me though. The style of The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker really is a big artistic inspiration for me. I love the colors and the shapes, and I like characters that have noticeable shapes, like really super cartoony stuff. Things like Avatar: The Last Airbender, as far as like storytelling and building of things, that's a big inspiration. Neopets, of course, was my roots. I was a Neopets kid, and I learned to draw because I draw Neopets, and I learned to draw the fairies on Neopets, and I think that's kind of where my cartoony style came from. A more obscure inspiration point, though, that doesn't make any sense at all is the anime Soul Eater.
Oh, interesting.
I watched that. I watched that with a friend of mine in college, and it's a pretty. I mean, I liked it, but like something about like the weight that the animation style has. I don't know, like when the characters like open something and the fabric like spills out and it looks heavy. That was so cool to me, and that kind of inspired me a lot as far as movement in my pieces. I'm not a big animator, but it helps me pose a little bit. Always you have me up.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I draw a lot of inspiration. Like you might have seen an image in the background there. Cryptid Creations, Bobby Chio, and it's just everyday life, going out and about, looking at nature, looking at animals, creatures, deep sea creatures, all sorts. I just draw it from everywhere and everywhere I can get it. Yeah.
It's very cool to be able to look around and just get inspiration from pretty much anything. I think that's a really unique experience that artists have that other people don't have.
Awesome. Yeah.
Not that you can't be inspired by something, not as an artist, but I don't know. I think we have a very unique perspective on the world, and I think that's very cool.
Yeah. So my last question is, what advice would you give any aspiring artists?
Oh, we were talking about this a little bit last night. I think the biggest piece of advice I would give, besides all like kind of the normal stuff, like always practice, keep at it, would be draw from life. Even if you want to be a cartoonist, draw from life. You have to understand how something works in real life before you can, exaggerate it into a cartoon. And it's so hard for people to, because you don't want to draw realistic, and so in your mind you go, I don't want to do it, but you do kind of have to. And I wish that I would have really accepted that information when I was in college. I didn't, and I never wanted to do any of the real life stuff, but it's so important. And there was another one I had, and that left me also. The idea train left the building, and I have no idea what the other advice I had was. But draw from life is a big one. That's usually one I go with.
Yep. I say,
I don't know what the other one was. I had two. I don't remember what the other one was now.
Keep learning. Always keep learning. And yes,
always keep learning. That's a big one. Never stop learning. Never be afraid to change or try something new. Sometimes if you're stuck, trying something new is the best way to get out of it. get out of the rut by trying something you're not comfortable with, and even if it's not perfect, at least it was a step forward.
Yep. Well, thank you for coming in today.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Fun.
And thanks for all the people watching it.
Me.
Obviously, this is on YouTube. It would be on YouTube if you're listening. Yeah, and hopefully we'll see you guys next time. Yeah. See us. Bye.
Bye.